Monetary policy. Monetary policy. So monetary policy is a measure that is used by RBI to control money supply. Monetary policy can be of two types based on what the RBI is trying to achieve. The first type of the monetary policy would be an expansionary monetary policy. As the name suggests, there is something that the RBI wants to expand in this, like maybe expanding the money supply. And the other one is known as contractionary monetary policy. Contractionary monetary policy, जिसका मतलब है RBI किसी ना किसी चीज को contract करने की कोशिश कर रही है, ठीक है? It is trying to contract some money supply. So both of these policies are fundamentally related to something known as money supply. Money supply. So what happens is that if there is inflation in the market, there is an excessive money supply that is in the market. Now what happens if there is excessive inflation or excessive money supply in the market? This excessive money supply leads to increasing the purchasing power of people. For example, मैं एक व्यक्ति हूँ जो चीजें खरीदना चाहता है. Now I have access to more credit. Then since I have access to more credit, I will choose to buy more. Let us look at a more refined example. मान लेते हैं I have the availability to avail a loan of ₹1,000. That will permit me to buy all the things or some of the things that are worth 1,000 or below 1,000, right? Now, for example, now suddenly I can get a loan of ₹1 lakh. So my credit worthiness or the ability to have credit has increased, and therefore my purchasing power suddenly has increased. First of all, we have to understand that why would I choose to take credit? Any form of credit that I'm taking, I will take it to spend it. And in case I want to spend that money, I am purchasing something. I might be purchasing a service or I might be purchasing a good. And in that case, if there is excessive amount of money supply in the market, I will go and buy those items. Now, what happens in the market is that our market is governed by two fundamental principles. The two fundamental principles are called as supply and demand. So, we might have looked at this curve, which is a curve of price versus quantity. And in this curve, we know that this is known as the demand curve and this is known as the supply curve. And this point here, where both supply and demand match up, is called as the equilibrium point. So what will happen when I have an excessive money supply in the market? An excessive money supply in the market leads me to have a greater purchasing power. For example, there is a set of people who can now own more and more things. Now they will spend more money and they will purchase more items. As we purchase more and more items, the demand for items will go up and up and up. What happens when demand goes up? So demand goes up means the quantity demanded will go up. So for example, right now, I am demanding a certain amount of quantity of a material. Now, I want to have more quantity of materials. So my demand will increase. And that was signified by a rightward shift in the demand curve. And this forms my new demand curve. And as I can observe in this, that my equilibrium point has also shifted. To which position? So let us look at this also. Now, for a higher price, which is P2, I get a higher quantity which is Q2. Initially, at equilibrium point 1, I was getting quantity Q1 at price P1, and now I am getting quantity Q2 for price P2, which is higher. So let us write this down also. We have clearly seen in the graph that we are getting a higher price for a higher quantity. Why has this sudden change happened? Because my quantity demanded increased since my purchasing power had increased. So can I say that if there is an increase in my purchasing power, there is an increase in my aggregate demand. And how is this happening? This is all happening when there is an increase in my money supply. Increase in my money supply. Now in this case, the prices of every item will go up. Now this going up of prices of items is called as inflationary effect or inflation. Now what does the RBI do, or what is the step that RBI takes in such a condition? So it implements some steps of something called as a monetary policy. Now we know that the core function of RBI is inflation targeting. So what is the RBI most focused on? It is focused on the fact that we don't want prices to be very high. And inflation targeting therefore becomes the main aspect or the main function of RBI. Okay. Now let us look at it again. Monetary policies are of two kinds, as we said, expansionary and contractionary. Now in this case, when money supply is increasing and there is an excess of money in the market, RBI has to devise a way in which it takes out all of that money supply, right? Now will it choose to expand itself, or will it choose to expand the money supply? No, certainly not. What RBI will choose to do is it will choose to follow a policy called as contractionary monetary policy. And in this case, contractionary monetary policy means curtailing or slowing down the money supply or reducing the money supply. Now how is RBI going to achieve something called as contractionary monetary policy? There are certain means by which RBI performs this action, and it uses a set of rates. As we discussed, it uses a set of rates called as bank rate, repo rate, reverse repo rate, and there are certain other monetary policy measures also known as CRR, which is cash reserve ratio, SLR, which are the statutory liquidity requirements of a bank, and more, such as MSF, which is also called as the marginal standing facility of a bank. Now fundamentally what I want to do is reduce the money supply in the market to reduce the amount of inflation. Now the bank will do what? The bank will increase its interest rates. By increasing the interest rates, people will understand that I am being offered a higher interest, or I am being incentivized to keep my money with the bank. Now since I am incentivized to keep my money with the bank, I will choose to keep my money with the bank. That way, I will not be spending my money, or money supply will be reducing. So the amount of circulation, the amount of money in circulation in the market is going to reduce. जितना पैसा market में है वो reduce हो जाएगा as we decrease the money supply, and by doing what? Increasing certain rates. अब मैं interest rate बढ़ा देता हूँ किसी भी बैंक का. मैं किसी भी बैंक में जाता हूँ और मुझे पता लगता है कि SBI is currently offering a 5% interest rate. 5% interest rate is not good enough for me, so I come back. Now suddenly RBI starts to offer 8% interest rate. Now I can deposit my money risk-free in a bank and get a good amount of rate of interest, and therefore I am incentivized now to keep that money over there. Now if I want to keep that money over there, the bank rate will be increased.